अस्सलामुअलैकुम। हाउ आर यू ऑल फ्रेंड्स? आई होप दैट ऑल आर फाइन। फ्रेंड्स, आज आपके लिए ELT सब्जेक्ट 502 उसके नोट्स लेकर हाजिर हुआ हूँ। फ्रेंड्स, तमाम क्वेश्चन बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हैं। ये वो क्वेश्चन हैं जो कि पास्ट पेपर्स में आ चुके हैं बार बार, और अगर आप ये वीडियो मुकम्मल देख लेंगे तो मैं आपको गारंटी के साथ कहता हूँ कि आपकी 502 की मुकम्मल तैयारी हो जाएगी और कम अज़ कम 70-80% मार्क्स आपके लाजमन आ जाएंगे अगर वीडियो को मुकम्मल और गौर से आप देखेंगे, क्योंकि ये तमाम वो क्वेश्चन हैं जो पेपर में बार बार आ चुके हैं। तो आइए फ्रेंड्स, हम शुरू करते हैं। और क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, ई डिक्शनरी। An electronic dictionary is a dictionary whose data exists in digital form and can be accessed through a number of different media. Electronic dictionaries can be found in several forms, including as dedicated handheld devices, as apps on smartphones and tablet computers or computer software, as a function built into an e-reader as CD-ROM and DVD-ROMs. They are typically packaged with a printed dictionary to be installed on the user's own computer. As free or paid for online products, most of the early electronic dictionaries were print dictionaries made available in digital form. The content was identical, but the electronic editions provided users with more powerful search functions. But soon the opportunities offered by digital media began to be exploited. Next question is source material of dictionaries. डिक्शनरीज का सोर्स मटेरियल बहुत अहम क्वेश्चन है फ्रेंड्स। तो आइए इसके आंसर देखते हैं। द वोकेबलरी ऑफ इंग्लिश कंटेन्स वर्ड्स फ्रॉम मोर सोर्स than any other language as a consequence of its history and contacts with any other language. The substratum of English is Anglo-Saxon. Overlaid on this stratum is a stratum of Latinate vocabulary. The invading Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxon, and Jutes, also contributed to its richness. English has imported words from countless languages around the world. Two basic methods by which a language may increase its vocabulary. Number 1, use of material available, and number 2 is import word from another language. Friends, next question is define prototypical dictionary. डिफाइन प्रोटोटिपिकल डिक्शनरी। ये तमाम क्वेश्चन जो हैं सब भी बहुत अहम हैं। तो आइए देखते हैं इसका आंसर। आंसर इज द प्रोटोटिपिकल डिक्शनरी हैज़ द फॉर्म ऑफ अ स्टैटिक बुक और डायनामिक प्रोडक्ट ई डिक्शनरी with an interstructure that establishes links between the various components. E-dictionary is usually alphabetically structured. A dictionary provides many useful things, such as a reference book and record of lexicon of language, quick to find information, serves as a guardian of purity of that language, provides information on spelling, form, meaning, usage of words, and fixed collocation. And next question is, friends, lexicographer have a lot corpus at their end to work with. A dictionary describes the vocabulary of a language or a coherent subset of a language. For each language and subset, a set of text can be assembled which provides evidence of the choices and combinations of choices that are made by users of the language. Such a set of text is called corpus, almost always in electronic form. Nowadays, the adequacy of the corpus depends on its size, its diversity, and skill of those who assemble it. A corpus is close to the center of dictionary project. The lexicographer should formulate a policy concerning the way in which the corpus will be used, corpus is close to the center of dictionary project. The lexicographer should formulate a policy concerning the way in which the corpus will be used. And next question is friend, collocative meaning with examples. बहुत अहम क्वेश्चन है, 3 मार्क्स हैं इसके, 3 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है पेपर में। चूँकि 3 मार्क्स वाले क्वेश्चन भी होते हैं, 5 मार्क्स वाले भी होते हैं, तो ये 3 मार्क्स वाला है, बहुत अहम है। कोलोकेटिव मीनिंग विद एग्जाम्पल्स, इसका आंसर है the definition of collocation refers to a group of words that often go together or that are likely to occur together. Two words that often go together, such as light sleeper or early riser, are an example of collocation. And next question is friend, 5 marks का question है, briefly explain conceptual or denotative meaning. बहुत ज़्यादा अहम सवाल है, अक्सर ये पेपर में आया है, conceptual meaning और denotative meaning। तो आइए हम आंसर देखते हैं। Answer is that conceptual meaning or denotative meaning cover those basic essential components of meaning that are conveyed by the literal use of a word, and it is the type of meaning that dictionaries are designed to describe. Some of the basic components of a word, like needle in English, might include thin, sharp, steel, instrument. These components would be part of the conceptual meaning of needle. However, different people might have different associations or connotations tied to a word like needle. They might associate it with pain or illness or blood or drugs or thread or knitting or hard to find, especially in a haystack. And these associations may differ from one person to the next. These types of associations are not treated as part of the word's conceptual meaning. In a similar way, some people may associate the expression low calorie when used to describe a product with healthy, but this is not part of the basic conceptual meaning of the expression, producing a small amount of heat or energy. And next question is invisible meaning define. इनविजिबल मीनिंग डिफाइन बहुत अहम क्वेश्चन है फ्रेंड्स, तमाम क्वेश्चन अहम है, ये तमाम वो क्वेश्चन है जो कि बार बार पेपर में रिपीट हो चुके हैं। तो आपने किसी क्वेश्चन को जो है आसान नहीं समझना। पहली बात तो यह है कि जो हैंड आउट्स होते हैं, जो बुक होती है, वो सब भी अहम होती है, लेकिन ये मैं आपके लिए वो क्वेश्चन लेकर आया हूँ जो बार बार रिपीट होते हैं पेपर्स में। तो ये सवाल भी बहुत ज़्यादा अहम है, इनविजिबल मीनिंग डिफाइन। तो आइए इसका जवाब देखते हैं। Pragmatics is the study of invisible meaning, or how we recognize what is meant even when it is not actually said or written. A lot of shared assumptions and expectations exist when people try to communicate. If we read a sign of heated attendant parking, we can park a car in this place, that it's a heated area, and that there will be an attendant to look after the car. Our interpretation of the meaning of the sign is not based solely on the words, but on what we think the writer intended to communicate. We are actively involved in creating an interpretation of what we read and hear. And next question is connotative mean. What is the mean of connotative? Connotative का क्या मतलब है? ऐसे आ सकता है या इस तरह भी सवाल आ सकता है, राइट अ ब्रीफ नोट ऑन connotative mean. तो आइए आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। Connotative meaning is what people think about two words and find whether it is possible or impossible for the word to have two different meanings from its denotative meaning. Based on it, the meaning depends on personal interpretation. Sometimes people have the same or different thought. Sometimes when a word has both positive and negative sense value, the word is called a connotative meaning word. It is also pointed out that connotation meaning is subjective. in notion that there is a shift from common meaning because it has been added by sense and certain value. For example, bookworm is used for a person who always read books with a negative sense. Connotative meaning is the communicative value that an expression has by virtue of what it refers to over and above its purely conceptual content. It can vary from age to age, from society to society, and from individual to individual. And next question is, friends, so much important, the concept of metonymy in your own words. 5 नंबर्स का क्वेश्चन है फ्रेंड्स, 5 मार्क्स का, बहुत अहम है। आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं बगैर टाइम ज़ाया किए। मेंटोनेमी इज़ another type of relationship between words based simply on a close connection in everyday experience, and a container contents relation, bottle water, can, juice, a whole part relation, car wheels, house roof, a representative symbol relationship, king, crow, the president, the White House. Using one of these words to refer to other is metonymy. He had the whole can. We also accept the White House as announced. Downing Street protested, filling up the car, answering the door, boiling a kettle, needing some wheels. And metonymy meanings are highly conventionalized and easy to interpret. However, making sense of such expressions often depends on context, background, knowledge, and friends. The strings are too quiet. I prefer cable regarding TV channels. And the next question of 3 marks is compounding. What is compounding, or what is the mean of compounding? So friends, let's answer. Answer is that joining two words to make a new word is process of compounding. मुझे यकीन है फ्रेंड्स आपको समझ लग रही होगी तमाम आंसर की, क्योंकि ये कोई इतना मुश्किल नहीं है कि इनका तर्जमा किया जाए या इसे आसान उर्दू में बताया जाए। बहुत आसान अल्फाज हैं। तो ये देखिए, ज्वाइनिंग टू वर्ड्स टू मेक अ न्यू वर्ड इज प्रोसेस ऑफ कंपाउंडिंग और कंपाउंड फॉर्म सच एज डॉग कैचर. Joining of two separate words to produce a single form is a very common word formation process in language. Examples of compounding using all nouns: bookcase, doorknob, fingerprint, sunburn, textbook, wallpaper, waste basket, and waterbed. Using adjective: good looking, low paid. Compounds of adjective: fast plus noun food, fast food, restaurant, full time job. It's a very common process in other language too. And friend, next question is difference between homonymy and polysemy. वेरी मच इम्पॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, बहुत दफ़ा आ चुका है पेपर्स में. पोलीसेमी, व्हाट इज़ पोलीसेमी? व्हेन अ सिंबल वर्ड और फ्रेज मीन्स मैनी डिफरेंट थिंग्स, दैट्स कॉल्ड पोलीसेमी. When a symbol, word, or phrase means many different things, that's called polysemy. The meaning is understood from the context or extension of the sentences. For example, foot of a child, foot of a chair. He went to the bank for his account. They went to the river bank for a picnic. There are different meaning of words. Two or more words are homonyms if they either sound the same. Two or more words are homonyms if they either sound the same. Homophones have the same spelling, homographs, or both but do not have related meaning. The words date, a thing we can eat. The word date, friends, date, खजूर, a thing we can eat, and dates, a point in time, तारीख, date, तारीख, are homonyms. आपको यकीनन समझ लग रही होगी. The point in time kind of dates is polysemous in terms of a particular day and month on a letter, an arranged meeting time, an appointment, a social meeting with someone we like, and even a person that person we like. And this is the friends paragraph. In the paragraph is the meanings of homophony, homonymy, and polysemy. You can read here. And go to the next question. This question is stage of child language learning. This is very much important question. हर दफ़ा आता है पेपर में. Stage of child language learning. The stage of language production by the children, focusing primarily on the unfolding of lexical and syntactic knowledge, are mentioned as follows. Stage: babbling. Typical age: description age. Stage: babbling. Typical age: 6 to 8 months. Description age: repetitive semi patterns. Stage number 2, stage 1 word stage, 1 morpheme or 1 or holophrastic stage. Typical age 9 to 18 months. Descriptive age: single open class word or word stems. Number 3, 2 word stage, and typical age 18 to 24 months. Description age: mini sentences with simple semantic relations. Number 4, telegraphic stage or early multi-word stage. Typical age 24 to 30 months. Description age: telegraphic sentence structure of lexical rather than functional or grammatical morpheme. And number 5, later multi-word stage. Typical age 30 plus months. Description age: grammatical or functional structure emerge. And the next question is telegraphic speech, telephatic stage of language acquisition. This is very much important question, so come to the answer. Between 2 and 2.5 years old, the child starts a large number of utterances that could be classified as multiple word speech. The salient features of these utterances cases to be the number of words, but the variation in word form that begin to appear. This is the stage characterized by strings of words, lexical morphemes in phrases or sentences such as this shoe all wet, cat drink milk, daddy go bye bye. Sentence building capacity can get the word order correct. While this type of telegram format speech is being produced, a number of grammatical inflections begin to appear. The word forms and simple prepositions. By the age of 2.5, the child vocabulary is expanding rapidly and the child is initiating more talk, while increased physical activity includes running and jumping. By there, the vocabulary has grown to hundreds of words and pronunciation has become closer to the form of adult language. At this point, it's worth considering what kind of influence the adults have in the development of the child's speech. And the friend's next question is word sense disambiguator. Word sense disambiguator, and it's very much important question. And the answer is that it uses the context of neighboring words in the sentence as well as other words in the document to figure out which meaning of a given word is most likely. It uses rules that depend on context, and these rules can be derived by human intuition or by training a machine learning program. A word's syntactic and semantic properties are represented in the computer's digital lexicon. A word's syntactic and semantic properties are presented in the computer's digital lexicon. Where words syntactic and semantic properties are represented in the computer digital lexicon. A word's syntactic and semantic properties are represented in the computer's digital lexicon. And friend, next question is note on one word stage of language acquisition. बहुत अहम सवाल 5 नंबर्स का अक्सर पेपर में आ चुका है. तो फ्रेंड्स, आप ये देख रहे हैं कि अक्सर जो सवालात के जवाबात हैं वो बहुत लेंथी हैं, बहुत लेंथ आंसर्स हैं. तो आपने इनसे परेशान नहीं होना. आपने पेपर्स में सिर्फ आपने कंसेप्ट क्लियर करना है. बेशक वहाँ पर ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 5 लाइंस भी, अगर आप 5 मार्क्स वाला जो क्वेश्चन होगा उसके आंसर में अगर आप 5 लाइंस भी लिख देते हैं तो आप बहुत अच्छा आंसर होगा. आपके मार्क्स 5 में से 5 आ सकते हैं अगर कंसेप्ट क्लियर होगा. तो लेंथी आंसर से आपने परेशान नहीं होना. आपने सिर्फ अपना कंसेप्ट क्लियर करना है और उसे पेपर में 4 से 5 लाइन्स में लिख देना है जी। तो ये क्वेश्चन बहुत अहम है। नोट ऑन वन वर्ड स्टेज ऑफ लैंग्वेज एक्विजिशन 5 मार्क्स का है। तो इसके आंसर पर आते हैं। बिटवीन 12 and 18 months the child produces a variety of recognizable single unit utterances. This stage is characterized by speech in which single terms are uttered for everyday objects like cookie, cat, cup, spoon, usually pronounced pen. Other forms such as a version of what's that. So the label one word for this stage may be misleading. The term such as single unit would be more accurate. Next question is very important. Language acquisition versus language learning. Language acquisition और language learning में क्या फ़र्क है? एक्विजिशन का मैनी होता है हासिल करना, लर्निंग का मैनी होता है सीखना। तो इसमें सवाल कर रहे हैं लैंग्वेज एक्विजिशन वर्सेस लैंग्वेज लर्निंग, इन दोनों में डिफरेंस क्या है, हासिल करना और सीखने में क्या फ़र्क है। तो आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। There is an important distinction made by linguists between language acquisition and language learning. Children acquire language through a subconscious process during which they are unaware of grammatical rules. This is similar to the way they acquire their first language. They get a feel for what is and what is not correct. In order to acquire language, the learner needs a source of natural communication. The emphasis is on the text of the communication and not on the form. Young students who are in the process of acquiring English get plenty of on-the-job practice. They readily acquire the language to communicate with classmates. Language learning, on the other hand, is not communicative. It is the result of direct instruction in the rules of language, and it certainly is not an age-appropriate activity for your young learner. In language learning, students have conscious knowledge of the new language and can talk about that knowledge. They can fill in the blank on grammar page. Research has shown, however, that knowing grammar rules does not necessarily result in good speaking or writing. A student who has memorized the rules of the language may be able to succeed on a standardized test of English language but may not be able to speak or write correctly. And friend, next question is, which factor get affected because of language barriers? All points were discussed in above. तो फ्रेंड्स आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। The experience with an language 2 is fundamentally different from that of language 1 experience, and it is hardly conducive to acquisition. They usually encounter the language 2 during their teenage or adult years in a few hours each week of school time rather than via the constant interaction experienced as a child with a lot of other things going on. And point number 2 is that with an already known language available for most of their daily communicative requirements. Point number 3, despite the fact that insufficient time, focus and incentive undermine many language 2 learning attempts. Next point, some individuals who seem to be able to overcome the difficulties and develop an ability to use the language 2 quite effectively. Next point, sounding like a native speaker is difficult. Even in ideal acquisition situation, very few adults seem to reach native-like proficiency in using a language too. There are individuals who can achieve a great expertise in the written language but not the spoken language. One of the greatest examples of this is Joseph Conrad. He wrote a lot of English novels, but whenever he used to speak English, he had his Polish accent. This might suggest that some features of a language too, such as vocabulary and grammar, are easier to learn than others, such as pronunciation. Without early experience using the sounds and intonation of the language too, even highly fluent adult learners are likely to be perceived as having an accent of some kind. तो फ्रेंड्स नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन। फ्रेंड मैं आपको अब जो है ना उतना आंसर बताऊंगा जितना कि पेपर में लिखना ज़रूरी है, ठीक हो गया? क्योंकि अगर हम इतना लेंथी पढ़ेंगे उसका कोई फ़ायदा ही नहीं होगा। ये अगर मतलब आप मुकम्मल रीड करना चाहें तो आप वीडियो को स्टिल करके मुकम्मल रीड करें, बाकी जो मैं रीड करूँगा अगर उतना आप पेपर में लिख दें तो वो आपके मार्क्स के लिए काफ़ी होगा। सो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज़ क्रिटिकल पीरियड इन लैंग्वेज एक्विजिशन। बहुत अहम सवाल है। The apparent specialization of the left hemisphere for language is usually described in terms of lateral dominance or lateralization, one-sidedness. Since the human child does not emerge from the womb as a fully articulate language user, the lateralization process begins in early childhood. It coincides with the period during which language acquisition takes place. During childhood, there is a period when the human brain is most ready to receive input and learn a particular language. This is sometimes called the sensitive period for the language acquisition, but is more generally known as the critical period. And friends, the acquisition of the plural marker, ये आप यहाँ वीडियो स्टिल करके रीड कर सकते हैं। एंड टू फ्रेज स्ट्रक्चर रूल, ये भी आपके सामने है। उसके बाद आते हैं व्हाट इज़ द क्राइटेरिया फॉर फॉर्मिंग अ नाउन फ्रेज एंड अ prepositional. Answer is that English has strict rules for combining words into phrases. Noun phrases, the good boy, art plus adjective plus noun. Prepositional phrase, to the park, preposition plus art plus noun. And the next question is standard varieties of English in the world. ये भी फ्रेंड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है। अक्सर तौर पर हम देखते हैं कि हमें आंसर छोटे नज़र आ रहे होते हैं या क्वेश्चन हमको आम सा लग रहा होता है तो हम उसे इग्नोर कर देते हैं, हालांकि अक्सर ऐसे क्वेश्चन ही जो हैं वो आ जाते हैं पेपर्स में। तो आपने कभी भी छोटे सवाल या छोटा आंसर देखकर उसे इग्नोर नहीं करना, ये अक्सर आ जाते हैं। तो क्वेश्चन है स्टैंडर्ड वैरायटी ऑफ इंग्लिश इन द वर्ल्ड। आंसर ये है देयर आर डिफरेंट स्टैंडर्ड वैरायटीज ऑफ इंग्लिश इन द वर्ल्ड। ब्रिटिश इंग्लिश, नॉर्थ अमेरिकन इंग्लिश, ऑस्ट्रेलियन इंग्लिश, इंडियन इंग्लिश। एंड द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज स्टैंडर्ड वैरायटी। तो आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। आंसर ये है इट इज़ एन आइडियलाइज्ड वैरायटी। स्टैंडर्ड वैरायटी क्या है? It is an idealized variety because it has no specific region. It is associated with administrative, commercial, and educational centers, printed in newspapers and books, and used in the mass media regardless of region. It is more easily described in terms of the written language, vocabulary, spelling, grammar than the spoken language. Next question is applied linguistics. फ्रेंड्स सो मच इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, बहुत दफ़ा पेपर्स में आ चुका है। अप्लाइड लिंग्विस्टिक। What is applied linguistics? Applied linguistics is an interdisciplinary field of linguistics which identifies, investigates, and offers solutions to language-related real-life problems. Language is at the heart of human life, and the applied linguistics answers of the following questions. What language skills should children attain beyond basic literacy? Should children speaking a dialect be encouraged to maintain it or steer towards the standard form of a language? Should everyone learn a foreign language? Language change. Should this just be accepted as an inevitable fact, or should the change be controlled in some way? Which language should be used in law courts and official documents? तो ये फ्रेंड्स आप देख सकते हैं आपके सामने हैं। तो नेक्स्ट जो कि ये प्रैग्मेटिक्स बहुत अहम क्वेश्चन है। प्रैग्मेटिक्स बहुत दफ़ा आ चुका है पेपर में। व्हाट इज़ द प्रैग्मेटिक्स? द स्टडी ऑफ द यूज़ ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक साइंस। बहुत इजी आंसर है और सवाल बहुत अहम है। What's the pragmatics? Pragmatics is the study of the use of linguistic science, words and sentences in actual situations. Next question, friends, 5 marks का है. The idea of physical context. तो आइए इसका आंसर देखते हैं. Idea of physical context. There are some very common words in our language that cannot be interpreted at all if we do not know the context, especially the physical context of the speaker. These are words such as here and there, this or that, now and then, yesterday, today, or tomorrow, as well as pronouns such as you, me, her, him, it, and them. Some sentences of English are virtually impossible to understand if we do not know who is speaking, about whom, where, and when. Look at the following sentence. You shall have to bring it back tomorrow because she is not here today. It contains a large number of expressions, you tomorrow, she here today, that rely on knowledge of the immediate physical context for their interpretation, and that the delivery driver will have to return on February 15 to 660 College Drive with the long box labeled flowers handled with care addressed to Miss Rabi. Expressions such as tomorrow and here are obvious examples of bits of language that we can only understand in terms of the speaker's intended meaning. Next question is so much important, friends. Physical context in pragmatics. Physical context in pragmatics. The answer is that the physical context is the location of the given word. फ्रेंड्स आप देख सकते हैं कोई मुश्किल बात नहीं है, कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं है जिसकी आपको समझ न लगे या कोई आपको मुश्किल हो. फिजिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट इन प्रैग्मेटिक्स. फिजिकल, वो सवाल में पूछना फिजिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट का प्रैग्मेटिक्स में क्या किरदार है, तो आंसर इसका ये बनता है द फिजिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट इज द लोकेशन ऑफ द गिवन वर्ड, the situation in which it is used as well as timing, all of which add proper understanding of the word, furniture and how it's arranged, size of the room, color, temperature, time of day, and etc. If we see the word bank on the wall of a building in a city, the physical contexts will influence our interpretation. We should keep in mind that it's not the actual physical situation out there that constitutes the communication events, rather the relevant context in our mental representation of those aspects help to arrive us at an interpretation of the given world. And the next question is, friend, social cultural context in pragmatics. बहुत ज़्यादा अहम क्वेश्चन है ये, आप यहाँ पर वीडियो को स्टिल कर कर रीड कीजिए. नेक्स्ट ये फ्रेंड्स आप देख रहे हैं डेग्जिस. ये जब हमारे एग्ज़ाम हुए थे तो मैंने इसे आम क्वेश्चन और कुछ ना समझ कर मैंने इसे इग्नोर कर दिया था, लेकिन हमारी दफ़ा यही सवाल पेपर में आ गया था. लेकिन पहले चूँकि मैंने इसे याद किया हुआ था, लेकिन मैंने इसे आखिरी दिनों में इतना ज़्यादा इसे तरजीह नहीं दी थी, लेकिन मैंने इसे हल वहाँ लिखा था इसके बारे में पेपर में, क्योंकि मुझे याद था. लेकिन मैं ये बता रहा हूँ कि मैंने इसे इग्नोर किया था पेपर की आखिरी दिनों में. तो ये सवाल आप लाजमी से कीजिए रेडी, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. डेग्जिस, व्हाट आर डेग्जिस, आर राइट अबाउट डेग्जिस. तो इसका आंसर आप ये लिखेंगे, वर्ड्स that cannot be interpreted unless the physical context of the speaker is known. You shall have to bring that back tomorrow because they are not here today. Next, temporal deguis, place deguis, define person deguis, reference. Yes friend, इस तरह भी क्वेश्चन आ सकता है that write the kinds of deguis. तो वो भी आपको पता होना चाहिए. टेम्पोरल डेग्जिस, प्लेस डेग्जिस, डिफाइन पर्सन डेग्जिस, ये तमाम जो है आप कीजिए. ये आप देख सकते हैं, आपके ये सामने तमाम आंसर है, ये आप यहाँ से रीड कर लीजिए. इतने में हम चलते हैं नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पर. बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन आ गया. एक्सप्लेन प्रोसोडी. Friends, the question is explain prosody. Prosody is the study of the tune and rhythm of speech and the way these features contribute to meaning. Prosody features apply to a level above that of the individual phoneme and very often to sequence of words. Speech contains various levels of information that can be described as linguistic, direct expression of meaning. Number 2, paralinguistic, may indicate attitude or membership of a speech community. Number 3, non-linguistic, may indicate something about a speaker's vocal physiology, state of health, or emotional state. The next question is politeness. What is politeness? The answer of this is that generally refers to the ideas like being tactful, modest, and nice to other people. In pragmatics, politeness can be defined as showing awareness and consideration of another person's face. It was described by Yali 2010. Politeness in language is centered on the notion of face. The next is politeness principle. ये भी फ्रेंड्स आप यहाँ से रीड किए कर लीजिए, ये आपके सामने स्क्रीन पर है। तो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है वो है कॉन्ट्रास्टिव लिंग्विस्टिक। 3 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है और अक्सर बहुत पेपर में आ चुका है। तो इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। कॉन्ट्रास्टिव लिंग्विस्टिक, a practice oriented linguistic approach that seeks to describe the differences and similarities between a pair of language. The next question is direct speech act. What is direct speech act? तो ये इसका आंसर है a direct relationship between the structure and the communicative function of the utterance is called direct speech act. We do not know something, we ask someone to provide the information. Can you ride a bicycle? एंड फ्रेंड दिस क्वेश्चन इज़ सो मच इम्पॉर्टेंट, ये आप लाजमी रेडी कीजिए। कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक्स बहुत दफ़ा पेपर्स में रिपीट हो चुका है, अक्सर दफ़ा आ चुका है, बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक्स। तो आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक्स इज़ द ब्रांच ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक्स इन विच द टेक्निक्स ऑफ कंप्यूटर साइंस आर अप्लाइड टू द एनालिसिस एंड synthesis of language and speech. Computational linguistics is an interdisciplinary field concerned with the statistical or rule-based modeling of natural language from a computational perspective. Traditionally, computational linguistics was performed by computer scientists who had specialized in the application of computers to the processing of a natural language. In general, computational linguistics draws upon the involvement of linguistics, computer scientists, experts in artificial intelligence, mathematicians, logicians, philosophers, cognitive scientists, cognitive psychologists, psycholinguistics, anthropologists, and neuroscientists, among others. Application of CL application of computational linguistics. Which are the applications of computational linguistics? ये भी बहुत फ्रेंड इम्पॉर्टेंट है। तो आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। The impact of computational linguistics society depends on the application it makes possible. Computers have for many years been using more computational linguistics tools in applications such as multilingual word processing, spelling correction, grammar checking. Since computers can search through documents in different languages and find information much faster, the human can search engines that troll through web pages have become extremely useful with the wide use of email and cellular phones. Speech-enabled applications have started to become a presence in flight information and hotel reservation system. It does the following tasks as well: information extraction, speech recognition, speech synthesis, machine translation. These and other technologies provide opportunities to embed and apply computational linguistic methods. तो ये फ्रेंड्स जो है प्रोसेसेस एंड मेथड्स ऑफ कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक्स, ये आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए। अब जो हमने ऊपर कर दिया है, हमने जो ऊपर किया है वो आंसर ही काफ़ी है। तो फ्रेंड्स 1 मिनट अजान शुरू हो चुकी है, अजान का हम वक्फ़ा लेते हैं। जी फ्रेंड्स, तो ये कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक का ये आंसर आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए। तो हम नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे चलते हैं। रोल ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स इन सीमेंटिक्स, बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, बहुत ज़्यादा अहम क्वेश्चन है। रोल ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स इन सीमेंटिक्स, इसका आंसर ये है, इफ़ एन एजेंट यूजेज एन अदर एंटिटी in order to perform an action that other entity fills the role of instrument. For example, ये examples हैं, the boy cut the rope with an old razor. Number 2, he drew the picture with a crayon. In these examples, with an old razor and with a crayon are instruments with which the agent performs the action, well as either an adverb or a singular noun. Next, overextension in semantic with one example. 3 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है। तो फ्रेंड्स, जितना बड़ा आंसर इधर दिया गया इतना आंसर वहाँ लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती, वहाँ टू द पॉइंट लिखना होता है, जबकि यहाँ पर हमें मुकम्मल वो जवाब दिया गया होता है। तो आपने टू द पॉइंट आंसर लिखना है। ओवर एक्सटेंशन इन सीमेंटिक विद वन एग्जाम्पल। तो आइए आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। वन चाइल्ड फर्स्ट यूज बो बो वो टू रेफर टू अ डॉग एंड देन टू अ फोर पीस विद glass eyes, a set of cufflinks and even a bath thermometer. The word bow bow seem to have a meaning like object with shiny bits. तो एग्जाम्पल फ्रेंड इतनी बहुत है एग्ज़ाम के लिए, ये बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है। सिंटैक्स, व्हाट इज़ द सिंटैक्स और राइट अबाउट सिंटैक्स, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है। तो आइए इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। द वर्ड सिंटैक्स कम्स ओरिजिनली फ्रॉम ग्रीक एंड लिटरली मीन्स अ पुटिंग टुगेदर, literally means a putting together or arrangement. There was an attempt to produce an accurate description of the sequence or ordering arrangement of elements in the linear structure of the sentence. In the more recent attempts to analyze syntactic structure, there has been a greater focus on the underlying rule system that we use to produce or generate sentences. द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज सिमेंटिक प्रोसेस। ये फ्रेंड्स आप देख सकते हैं, जैसे कि यहाँ पर ये आंसर दिया गया है, 5 मार्क्स का आंसर है और आंसर बिल्कुल टू द पॉइंट है। तो ये कितनी लाइन पर है, 1 2 3 लाइन्स है। ये चीज़ इस्तेमाल होती है एग्ज़ाम में, आपने टू द पॉइंट आंसर लिखना है और अगर आप 5 लाइन लिख देते हैं तो इसका मतलब है कि आपने बहुत ज़्यादा आंसर लिख दिया है। तो ये सिमेंटिक प्रोसेस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सवाल है। तो आइए इसका आंसर देखते हैं। How can a computer understand the meaning of entrance? The parse tree, a given part of speech, may have more than one meaning. Spot. We found a nice spot for lunch. Out, out, damned spot. Would you like a spot of tea? These are some examples of word spot. So next question is morphology processing. Computational morphology deals with the processing of words and word forms in both their graphic written form and their phonemic spoken form. The task of an automatic morphological analyzer is to take a word in language and break it down into its stem form along with any affixes that it may have tied to that stem. In processing a sentence such as Hussein reads well, the analysis should be Hussein as a proper name, reads as the third person singular present form of the verb reads. So next question is origin of discourse analysis in your own words. 5 marks का question है. The term discourse analysis was first employed by Zelling Harris as the name for a method for the analysis of the connected speech or writing for continuing descriptive linguistics beyond the limit of a single sentence at a time and for correlating culture and language. Harris 1952. The word discourse is usually defined as language beyond the sentence, and so the analysis of discourse is typically concerned with the study of language in texts and conversation. As language users, we are capable of more than simply recognizing correct versus incorrect forms and structures. Then the next question is the method of understanding discourse. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है फ्रेंड, इसे आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए और चलते हैं नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पर. डिफरेंस बिटवीन डिस्कोर्स एंड सेंटेंसेस. 3 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है. डिफरेंस बिटवीन डिस्कोर्स एंड सेंटेंसेस बहुत दफ़ा पेपर्स में आ चुका है. तो इसका आंसर ये है, अ डिस्कोर्स ऑलवेज हैज़ द इम्प्लीकेशन ऑफ बीइंग अ रीजनेबली लॉन्ग एक्सप्लेनेशन और लेक्चर. As such, it will inevitably contain many sentences. You would never describe a single sentence as a discourse unless it was ridiculously convoluted just to make a point. And the next question is discourse typology. Discourse typology means language teaching divide discourse into two major categories, spoken, written. They are further divided into the following: spoken, speaking and listening; written, reading and writing. Spoken discourse is less planned and orderly in a conversation. It is more open. It is more open to intervention by the receivers. Some kinds of spoken discourses are lesson, lectures, interviews, quota literacy. These spoken discourses are planned to some extent by the person who initiates the conversation. In reading novel, one cannot influence its development. At times, readers may affect the written discourse. Example, a person is writing something and the response of the market can influence his writing. A teacher as a reader sends the essays back to the students to be rewritten. The traditional division of spoken and writing is based on a difference in production. And the next question is fundamental distinction as far as discourse structure is concerned. ये फ्रेंड्स आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए. तो चलते हैं नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पर. नोट ऑन डिस्कोर्स एनालिसिस. डिस्कोर्स language beyond the sentence. Discourse analysis, the study of language in texts and conversation. It can be considered in terms of the way language is used, even how pauses are used. It focuses upon certain questions such as how we make sense of what we read. Number 2, how we can recognize well-constructed text and opposite to those that are jumbled or incoherent. Number 3, how we understand speakers who communicate more than they say. And and how we successfully take part in that complex activity called conversation. Next question is discourse as a dialogue. ये फ्रेंड्स आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए इसे कंप्लीट और चलते हैं नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पर. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज क्रिटिकल डिस्कोर्स एनालिसिस. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. Critical discourse analysis is a field that is concerned with studying and analyzing written and spoken text to reveal the discursive sources of power, dominance, inequality, and bias. It examines how these discursive sources are maintained and reproduced within specific social, political, and historical contexts. Fairclough 1993 defines CDA critical discourse analysis as discourse analysis which aims to explore often opaque relationships of causality and determination between a discursive practice, events and texts and be wider social and cultural structure, relations and processes. Next question is principal characteristics of क्रिटिकल डिस्कोर्स एनालिसिस. ये फ्रेंड्स यहाँ से रीड कीजिए. हम चलते हैं नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पर. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज ट्री डायाग्राम. फ्रेंड्स बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, बहुत दफ़ा पेपर्स में आ चुका है ट्री डायाग्राम. और एज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ MELT आपको इस ट्री डायाग्राम के बारे में तो पता भी ज़रूर होना चाहिए, इसलिए इसकी प्रिपरेशन बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. तो आइए चलते हैं इसके आंसर की तरफ. द मोस्ट कॉमन वे टू क्रिएट अ विजुअल रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ syntactic structure is through tree diagram. We can use the symbol introduced article n, noun np for noun phrase to label parts of the tree as we try to capture the hierarchical organization of those parts in the underlying structure of phrases and sentences. At the top of the tree diagram, we begin with the sentence S and divided it into two constituents, NP and VP. In turn, the NP constituent is divided into two other constituents, Art and N, and VP into V and NP. At the top of the tree diagram, we begin with the sentence S and divide it into two constituents, NP and VP. In turn, the NP constituent is divided into two other constituents, Art and N. Name types of aphasia. The name types of aphasia, ये फ्रेंड्स आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए. 2 लाइन्स आंसर है. एंड नेक्स्ट इज ब्रोकाज अफेजिया और मोटर अफेजिया. ये फ्रेंड बहुत ही ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है. ये हमारी दफ़ा पेपर में आया था जब हमारे पेपर हुए थे. दिस टाइप इज करेक्टराइज्ड बाय substantially reduced amount of speech in which distorted articulation and slow and often effortful speech are noted. A grammatic. In this type, the speech consists entirely of lexical morphemes, whereas there are frequent omissions of functional morphemes and inflections. Here is an example. I eggs and eat and drink coffee, breakfast, my cheek, very annoyance, main is my shoulder, etching all round here. So friends, these are all about aphasia. You can read here and we go to the next question. आप यहाँ से रीड कर सकते हैं, जो भी आपने रीड करना हो वीडियो को स्टिल कीजिए और क्वेश्चन को रीड कीजिए. तो आगे चलते हैं. ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल रूल्स को यहाँ से रीड कीजिए. उसके बाद ये जनरेटिव ग्रामर बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है. ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल ग्रामर बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है. तो इसे भी आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए। वेव मॉडल, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, ये इसके बारे में मैं आपको बताता हूँ। वेव मॉडल बाय जॉनिस स्मिथ इन द 20th सेंचुरी। इसका आंसर ये है वेव मॉडल का। इन हिस्टोरिकल लिंग्विस्टिक्स द वेव मॉडल इज अ मॉडल ऑफ लैंग्वेज चेंज इन विच अ न्यू लैंग्वेज फीचर्स इनोवेशंस और अ न्यू कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ लैंग्वेज फीचर्स spreads from its region affecting a gradually expanding cluster of dialects. The theory was intended as a substitute for the tree model, which did not seem to be able to explain the existence of some features, especially in the Germanic language by descent from a proto-language as its most ambitious. It's a wholesale replacement for the tree model of language. Languages are to be regarded as impermanent sets of speech habits that prevail in the intersections of the circles. This model has four circles regarded as diachronic, namely innovations A, B, C, and D. These circles spread from their small centers of maximum effectiveness, like waves, becoming less effective than dispersing at maximum time and distance from the center. Grimm's law. Grimm's law, also known as the first Germanic sound shift, was the first non-trivial systematic sound change ever to be discovered. Its formulation was a turning point in the development of linguistics. So come to the next question. फ्रेंड्स, ये आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए, ये आप क्वेश्चन यहाँ से रीड कर सकते हैं। बिलिंगुअलिज्म एंड मल्टीलिंगुअलिज्म, ये आप लाजमी या रीड कीजिए। इन दो में से एक लाजमी आता है, या बिलिंगुअलिज्म आ जाता है या मल्टीलिंगुअलिज्म आ जाता है। इनमें से लाजमन एक आता है, तो इसकी आप लाजमी प्रिपेयर कीजिए। बिलिंगुअलिज्म, द एबिलिटी ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल आर द मेंबर ऑफ अ कम्युनिटी टू यूज़ टू लैंग्वेज। ठीक हो गया। बिलिंगुअलिज्म, the ability of an individual or the members of a community to use two languages effectively. Multilingualism, ability to use multiple languages is known as multilingualism. Note on coherence, ये आप यहाँ से रीड कीजिए। Structure, ambiguity, flouting the cooperative principle, ये फ्रेंड मैं इसलिए आपको रीड करने का कह रहा हूँ ताकि कम टाइम में आपके तमाम क्वेश्चन जो हैं वो क्लियर हो जाएं। Like quality maxim, other three can also be flouted. IC analysis, flaws in IC analysis, जो बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन होगा वो मैं आपको ज़रूर बताऊंगा। चाइनीज़ फेवरेट टॉपिक फॉर लिंग्विस्टिक रिसर्च, 3 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है, इसे लाजमी रीड कीजिए, अक्सर आ जाता है। ट्रेंड्स ऑफ सर्च इन लिंग्विस्टिक इन पाकिस्तान, 5 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है, बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, इसे आप लाजमन रीड कीजिए। ये देखिए फैमिली ट्री मॉडल, ये भी अक्सर आ जाता है। इंस्ट्रूमेंट इन सीमेंटिक्स, इसे रीड कीजिए। कन्वर्सेशनल प्रिंसिपल्स, कोऑपरेटिव, इसे रीड कीजिए। इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच एक्ट, इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच एक्ट, ये बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट, अक्सर ये आ जाता है। तो इसके आंसर की तरफ चलते हैं। इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच एक्ट, indirect speech acts, answer of this is, it means that there is an indirect relationship between the form and the function of the utterance. Can you pass the salt? This structure is not really asking a question about someone's ability, it is used to make a request. An indirect speech act is a syntactic structure associated with the function of a question. Next is accent and dialect. Please read from here. Social and cultural context, read from here. Question, process of language acquisition, बहुत अहम क्वेश्चन है। स्पेशियल एंड टेम्पोरल डेग्जिस, बहुत अहम क्वेश्चन है, हमारी दफ़ा आया था पेपर में, तो ये आप रीड कीजिए। स्पेशियल डेग्जिस, टू पॉइंट टू अ लोकेशन, हेयर, there, near, that. Temporal डेग्जिस, to a time, now, then, last week. आपने फ्रेंड किसी भी क्वेश्चन को उसके छोटा आंसर देखकर कभी भी इग्नोर नहीं करना, ये अपनी बात ध्यान में रखिए। हर क्वेश्चन को इम्पोर्टेंस देनी है, चाहे वो छोटा हो या चाहे वो क्वेश्चन बड़ा हो। होमोफोनी, two or more different forms have the same pronunciation are described as homophones. Bear, bear, meat, meat, floor, flower, pale, pale, right, right, sue, sue, two, two, two। जी, तो ये नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन प्रोसेस एंड मेथड्स ऑफ सीएल, इसे आप रीड कीजिए। उसके बाद आ जाता है टोपोलॉजी, ये क्वेश्चन है, इसे रीड कीजिए। इसके बाद साइकोलिंग्विस्टिक एंड न्यूरोलिंग्विस्टिक, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, ये मैं आपको ज़रूर इसकी प्रिपरेशन करवाऊँगा। Psycholinguistics or psychology of language is the study of the psychological and neurobiological factors that enable humans to acquire, use, comprehend, and produce language. The discipline is mainly concerned with the mechanism in which language are processed and represented in the brain. Psycholinguistics has roots in education and philosophy and covers the cognitive process that make it possible to generate grammatical and meaningful sentence out of vocabulary and grammatical structures. Neurolinguistics. What is neurolinguistics? Neurolinguistics is the study of the relationship between language and the brain is called neurolinguistics. The field of study dates back to the 19th century when the location of language in the brain was an early challenge. The accident of Mr. Gage made it clear to the scientists that language may be located in the specific parts of the brain. It is not clearly situated right at the front. The next question is functions of language. Please read from here. The next question is transformational sentence example. The next question is third stage of child vocabulary. Read from here. The next question is constancy under negation test. The next question is discourse production and comprehension. The next question is generative grammar, infinite number of sentence mean. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है फ्रेंड, इसे ज़रूर रीड कीजिए। द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज मॉर्फोलॉजिकल ओवर जनरेशन, इसे भी यहाँ से ज़रूर रीड कीजिए। तो फ्रेंड्स, ये हमारे नोट्स जो है मुकम्मल हो गए। यकीनन आपने तमाम क्वेश्चन पर तवज्जो की होगी, सबको गौर से पढ़ा होगा, सुना होगा, और अगर आपने ये मुकम्मल रीड कर लिया तो मैं यकीन से कहता हूँ कि आपके 70 से 80% मार्क्स लाजमन आ जाएंगे। तो फ्रेंड्स, बहुत शुक्रिया वीडियो मुकम्मल देखने के लिए। अल्लाह हाफिज़, खुदा हाफिज़ व निगहबान।